What's up, guys? Andrew Cooper here, aka Coop A Fiasco on Twitter. You're here for Coop's FF Fiasco, the fantasy football fiasco, sponsored by Fantasy Alarm on Better Sports Network, sponsored by FFPC as well. Thank you for joining us, folks. Sorry I missed Monday's show. I had a very big day on Sunday, had my first kid. Little Laney J joined us. But we got a big day today. Honestly, almost as big. Maybe not as big as your first kid, but still pretty big. We're going to hit on the entire tight end landscape today. And to do so, I'm bringing in the original tight end whisperer. To me, he is the tight end whisperer. He calls me that. We're kind of the tight end whisperer brotherhood now. But we're bringing in Howard Bender. Here's how the show goes for those who haven't seen the first couple or listened to the first couple. I'm going to cover the concepts and the elite guys in the first part. We're going to bring in Howard to help sort out the middle part. When we did wide receivers, we brought in Mike Viella. For quarterbacks, we brought in Scott Fish. Running backs, Bob Harris. We're always going to bring in another expert because we want to get multiple looks at this. Not just my opinion, though. I've looked at a lot of tight end stuff, but you want to get multiple opinions here. And then at the end, I'm going to go through my sleepers. We're talking about how to find the breakouts. And every single year for the past 6 years, a tight end's come from outside the top 17 in ADP to finish top 5. So they're out there, baby. Shout out everybody in the chat joining us. I appreciate all the well wishes for my new daughter. And yes, I am getting a bit of sleep, but hard to sleep when it's August. It's fantasy football time. So without further ado, let's get in the concepts. An hour really isn't that long, as we've proven on these shows. So I'm going to get in, and for this first 20 minutes or so, let's get into the concepts. All right. I've written extensively on this. My tight end series is up now. If you go to the first article, what makes an elite tight end? That honestly, if you can read through that and understand all of it, you'll have everything you need to find elite tight ends, to find breakout tight ends. As crazy as it sounds, you actually don't need me, right? We have tons of articles. Every year I'm going to give you my guys. But if you can master that one article and those concepts, then you have all the keys to the castle, right? So I'm going to go through those now, and then we'll hit on the elite guys for this year. So there's a number of concepts that matter, some more than others, but these first two are crucial. It's like going to a party, right? If you go to a party, you can either have a great time or you can have a terrible time. But if you can't get in the door, then you have zero chance of partying. And that's these first two stats. The first one, the tight end to have difference-making upside needs to be a top 2 target on his team. If you go back through the top 50 tight ends of all time, or even take the top 50 from the last 30 years, they've all been top 2 targets on their team. All time, every single one either led their team in targets or was second. Over the last 30 years, there's been one exception, one. And that was 2014 Martellus Bennett. He's number 47 on the list out of 50. So if you want guys that can actually move the needle, the next Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, you want that guy to be a top 2 target on his team. The other one that people don't really think about is actually pass blocking. If your tight end pass blocks on more than 15% of his snaps, he is dead. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. If you're blocking while they're throwing the ball, you might as well not even be on the field, right? Since I've been doing this, there's only been 3 guys to finish top 5 in fantasy while blocking on more than 15% of their pass plays. That was Rob Gronkowski one year when he caught 11 touchdowns in 11 games and then got hurt. Another one, Julius Thomas, did it with Adam Gase as the coach on the 2013 Broncos because Peyton Manning threw 55 touchdown passes. That's a record that still stands today. These are not things you can bank on. The other one is the unicorn himself, George Kittle, who did it in 2019, and he did it by breaking off monster chunk plays. It's not really something that you can repeat. The vast majority of these guys, they cannot be blocking on pass plays. Those are the 2 most important things, honestly. If you can paint a picture where you have a pass-catching tight end, meaning he's not blocking on pass plays, that could be a top 2 target on his team, there's a path to upside there, right? So those 2 are crucial. From there, you want as many of these other aspects as possible, right? You want a guy that lines up at wide receiver often, right? It makes all the sense in the world that a guy playing wide receiver is going to be good if you can start him at tight end. But there's a couple parts of it, nuanced parts of it, that matter more than blocking inline. First, inline, you're more susceptible to be asked to stay in the pass block. The other is it's easier to get a release from the slot position, and you get matchups with smaller corners or slower linebackers. The third one, and the one that people don't really think about, is that if you're going to move the tight end to the slot, especially if you're going to have an inline tight end blocking in the game with him, like Dallas Goedert inline and Zach Ertz in the slot, that takes a wide receiver out of the game. If you look at a team like the Baltimore Ravens, the reason that Mark Andrews has gotten such highly consolidated targets is Patrick Ricard plays like 50% of the snaps. That's a fullback. Nick Boyle, for the longest time, also played a ton of snaps in line. Mark Andrews' first 2 years, Nick Boyle played more snaps than him. So if you got these two guys, one at inline tight end, one at fullback, neither of them are soaking up targets, then it's basically one wide receiver, a running back, and the tight end. Of course he's going to get peppered. That's how 2020 we got a top 5 all-time season from Mark Andrews, because it was him and Hollywood Brown both getting 150 targets, and then a bunch of Willie Sneads and Patrick Ricard's running around doing absolutely nothing, basically playing split guard. So those are the situations we want to have these guys be monsters. I see Wayne. I see you in the chat. Where do you find the pass blocking stats? To be honest, the only place that I know that has the specific pass blocking stats is Pro Football Focus. It's behind the paywall that they have there. You can pay for it if you want. In my tight end series that I do every year right now, we're 3 articles in, and the best one, Yin and Yang tight end, is actually going up right after this show. I always point out if a guy is too far towards the top of the tight end spectrum in terms of pass blocking, or if he's way down at the bottom where we really like him. Like guys like Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, they don't pass block at all. Mark Andrews pass block on 1 snap last year. 1. They will never ask that guy to stay in and block because he's one of the best pass catchers on the team. Meanwhile, a guy like Tyler Higbee, in 1 year he blocked on 37% of his pass plays. How could he possibly have upside blocking on that many pass plays? Right. So we separate that out. That's good. I include all that in those articles for you if you don't want to go behind the paywall, or places like Player Profile. You can find some similar stats, not quite the same. But anyway, we want these guys lined up at wide receiver. Another one, these guys got to create for themselves. We want to look for guys that can catch the ball versus man to man. Right. When it's especially for red zone. Right. If you're down near the end zone, it's zero coverage. It's lockdown coverage. Everybody's crowding the box. It's one-on-one, man-to-man. That's how these guys score. And if you can't do that, then you could end up in trouble. Kyle Pitts needs to figure that out if he's going to have a lead upside. But you look at man-to-man. Over the last 2 years, Mark Andrews has 60 receptions versus man-to-man. Travis Kelce has 58. Nobody else has more than 30. Next highest guy is TJ Hawkinson with 30. That's why those guys are in a tier of their own. And that's what you want. You want guys that can do it themselves. Obviously, another point that's in the article is having a knack for scoring. That goes hand in hand with the man-to-man stuff. You got to be able to get those touchdowns, man. It is the difference maker. A guy like George Kittle, 11 touchdowns last year, right? That's the only reason he was top 5, because he didn't have the targets. To be a top 5 tight end in PPR, you need either 90 targets or double-digit touchdowns. Going all the way back to 2003. Randy McMichael in 2003 was the last guy to finish top 5 without 90 targets or 10 touchdowns. And I'll tell you this right now, the guys that get 10 touchdowns but don't get 90 targets, they're not as good as you think. Guys like Robert Tonyan, where in a couple years ago he had 11 touchdowns, but he was so touchdown dependent that when it came to championship week, he only caught 1 pass and it wasn't a touchdown, and he pulled your pants down in front of all your friends. So you really don't want those touchdown dependent guys. We want the targets. That's what we're going for, right? So that's why we need a top 2 target on the team. The next one that is a bonus, it's not necessary, but it's a bonus, is running high A-dot routes. And the best example is 2017, 2 players here, right? Take Jack Doyle and Rob Gronkowski. Jack Doyle had 80 receptions that year, and he had 337 yards after the catch. Rob Gronkowski only had 69 receptions, and he had 344 yards after the catch. So these guys, the same yak, and one guy got 11 more receptions than the other. But Jack Doyle finished with like 600 yards, and Rob Gronkowski finished with like 1,100. Why? Because Jack Doyle's average depth of target was 4.9 yards, and Gronk's was 12.1. That's where A-dot is killer. It makes all the difference. Getting downfield, running real routes. That's a huge difference maker from the guys that are just okay to the guys that are elite. And speed is a big part of that. That's the next point. Speed adds to yak, it adds to ADOT, and it's why a guy like George Kittle can do it even without running as many routes as other guys, even while blocking on a ton of pass plays, right? George Kittle, if you take all the tight ends and look at the 40 plus yard plays, George Kittle has 13 over the last 5, 6 years. Travis Kelce has 12. No other tight end in the league has more than 5. These are the only dudes making big chunk plays, and Kittle does it because he runs a 4.52. This guy is deceptively fast, and if you put a linebacker or a safety on him, he can make you pay. He's the only guy in the league that has multiple 80-yard plays, right? He has multiple 70-yard plays. There's the only other guy that even has the only two guys that even have one 80-yard play are TJ Hawkinson and Mike Gesicki. And Kittle's ripped off a bunch of them. That's what makes him scary. On the flip side, a guy like Zach Ertz, we think about him as being like consistently awesome every single year, but that's not really the case, right? Or in terms of huge upside, like he only has one 1,000-yard season in his career, and he needed 150 targets to do it. So even though he was a target monster, he was great in PPR, because he runs like a 4.74, he has to get peppered with targets to have a huge upside. That was always the problem with him. And there's a lot of guys that fall into that boat. And the last one for these points are be part of a high volume offense. And that one's easy. It's obvious, but it matters, man. You look at a guy like Austin Hooper, 2019 Falcons, not that great of a player, but that team threw 50 more times than any other team. And Austin Hooper was the tight end 6, even though he missed games. It's huge. Look at Dalton Schultz, right? Dalton Schultz's best comparable player on Player Profiler is Austin Hooper. They're not particularly athletic. They don't create for themselves versus man-to-man. Send me the Dalton Schultz highlight. I challenge people all the time. Send me the cool play that Tyler Higbee or Dalton Schultz made at Twitter, at Coop Fiasco. No one has ever sent me a highlight because these guys aren't making cool plays. But when the Cowboys are a top 5 team in pass attempts every single year, of course he's going to be up there. Of course he can have a top 3 season under those conditions. So those are the conditions that we're looking for, right? First 2 things, we need a guy that's a top 2 target on the team, and we need a guy that's not pass blocking. Those are crucial. After that, it's all gravy. Anything we can add from the other points, boost it up. So you get the top 2 guy, you get a guy that doesn't pass block. If he lines up a wide receiver, great. If he can create versus man-to-man, awesome. He needs to have a knack for scoring. He needs to run real high ADOT routes. If he's fast, awesome. And if the offense is great, even better. That's how you get Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, besides maybe speed, where his speed is okay, it's not world beating though. He checks every one of those boxes. That's how you get a tight end like that. And it happens from time to time. And it's our job to go out and find those guys, right? So what I do, honestly, and I talk about this every show, is this time of year, there's not that much reliable ADP for real leagues. A lot of them, it's like best ball, stuff like that. FFPC is where I look because not only is it the experts, but most of those leagues, like the main event over there, the $2,000 main event where you can win $1 million, that's tight end premium, right? So if you hit on these players, you hit on an elite guy and get a sneaky upside guy later, which we'll talk about, you can crush these formats. If you want to take advantage of that, go over to my FFPC right now, sign up. If you deposit 35 or more, they'll give you $25. But I've been looking at the elite guys over there, and EarnDog, if you could pull up those ADPs now, and this is how I sort them out, right? Because in the early part of your drafts, we want certainty. If we're taking one of these guys, we want to be certain that they're going to have upside. Later on, uncertainty becomes our friend. But here, we need to check as many of these boxes as possible. So Travis Kelce in a tight end premium format, he's the GOAT, man. I'm willing to take him at 1. I'm willing to take him personally, I take him at 4 after Chase, JJ, and CMC. But if you take him at 1 in a format like this, absolutely, man. He could be the number 1 player in tight end premium, right? Mark Andrews, I have him next. He's in a tier of his own for me. Kelce tier 1, Andrews tier 2, everybody else is in a different tier. Because this guy, you've seen him have a top 5 season all time. In 2019, when this team actually threw the football for once, now Greg Roman's gone, baby. He's out. And Todd Monken's in to bring the air raid offense. We could see it again. So Andrews, I'm willing to take at ADP. Hawk, boils down to how you feel about Jordan Addison. I don't really like taking him at ADP. I'll take him if he slides, because if Addison's the dude, or Addison even threatens those targets, JJ is getting elite target. Justin Jefferson, he's getting elite target share. So it hurts you there. So Hawk is a little risky. Kittle, I'm fading completely. Just wrote an article on it, but he was the 4th target on that team when everyone was healthy. When it doesn't matter who the quarterback was, when it was Brock Purdy, he was the 4th as well. Behind Debo, behind Ayuk, behind CMC. I'm not paying up for that. Not at tight end 4. And people say, oh, well, he scored 11 touchdowns because Brock Purdy loves him. Well, if you think that's the case, go over to your sports book where he set at 5.5 touchdowns and just bet that. Don't waste your fantasy season on it. Kyle Pitts, I'll always be willing to take a stab on a guy like that who basically is a wide receiver we can start at tight end. It's risky, of course, but if you want to win $1 million prize with a bunch of sharp guys at FFPC, you got to risk it with guys like that. After that, Darren Waller, and this is how sharp this is. I have Waller ranked at 3 or 4. In most sites, Goddard goes ahead, but on FFPC, Waller goes ahead. And I'm willing to take him early. Maybe as soon as Hawk goes off the board, I start thinking about him. And if I can get him after Kittle or after Pitts goes, even better. This guy could lead the Giants in targets. Everything says that he could be a stud. All the word coming out of there is that they love him, right? Wan'Dale Robinson come off the knee. Isaiah Hodgins only had 2 good games. They're both against the Vikings and Pat Peterson. I don't believe in him as a true dominant target guy. And then they have like a million little slot guys, right? How many Jameson Crowders do you need? Cole Beasley, Paris Campbell. I'm not worried about it. Darren Waller could lead the team in targets, could lead the team in red zone targets. And then the last one, Dallas Goedert, I'm fading him just because he's the 3rd target on the team. He's like a handcuff plus at running back, right? He's got some standalone value, which is nice. But it was A.J. Brown with 8 targets. It was Devonta Smith with 7.7 targets per game, and then Goddard with 5.6 when everyone was healthy. He's clearly the 3rd fiddle. I'm not drafting a guy like that and just hoping that the wide receivers get hurt. Not paying that ADP for that, especially when he goes right in the same spot as Pitts and Waller. Give me the upside. So unfortunately, we got to fade Goddard. And that's what we're doing here. That's how we're navigating it. And if you like that strategy, then FFPC with the tight end premium is the place to take advantage of it. Go over to myffpc.com, deposit 35 or more. They'll give you $25 when you use promo code ALARM. And that is a spot where you can really take advantage of the position. And, they have leagues from as little as $5 all the way up to $5,000 buy-in. The main event, as I mentioned, $2,000, you win $1 million if you win. And when the buy-in's $2,000, there's not that many teams. So it's not like you need to beat, a ton of other guys like you do with some of these other sites. Like you're in there with experts. And if you win that and you actually win a high stakes FFPC league, take that, throw it in your Twitter profile, and you're gold plated, man. Some of the best fantasy gamers, that's where they play. And that's one of the coolest things. So that's how I'm handling elite tight ends. In the draft guide now, fantasyalarm.com/draft guide, we've got a ton of articles. Make sure you buy that draft guide, but we make the tight end series free just because I've been doing it for a long time for communities like Reddit and Twitter. This is something that we honestly give back. And the guy I'm having join us next, Howard Bender, he's the one that's generous enough to do it. He's the one that says, you know what, we're going to give the people this one thing because we are the tight end whisperers, right? And we want to give the people that show them what we can do so that hopefully they'll support us, buy that draft guide over at fantasyalarm.com and support a group of guys that all and girls that all we really want you to do is help you win your fantasy leagues. That's it. And for us to be able to make content like this and give away these articles for free, like the guide to the elite tight ends that I put up there, it's all on my Twitter. It's at fantasyalarm.com. To give that away for free, we just need support from you guys. That's it. And it doesn't have to be you buying the draft guide. I know not everybody, can afford it, has the money these days. A like on YouTube, a subscription on YouTube. That's all it takes to support us. So we're going to take a quick, we're going to hear some words real quick from our buddies over at FFPC. And then I'm bringing in the OG tight end whisperer, Mr. Howard Bender himself when we get back. So stay tuned.
Kendre Miller fan. He's running back 46 in the Fantasy Pros Championship right now at the end of the 11th round. I want you to talk a little bit about him from both standpoints. Number one, from redraft. He's in the backfield, same backfield as Alvin Kamara, who we talked about in the first hour, and then obviously Jamal Williams. But as far as dynasty goes too, what should you be doing now if you're a dunce like me and missed on Miller, what kind of offers should you be making for Kendre Miller in your dynasty leagues right now?
Well, the problem now is the news worked against you, right? In the sense that you know that there's a suspension looming. We don't know what that suspension is. So do you try to go after him prior to the suspension, or do you wait to see how long it is?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the higher the suspension is, the more expensive Kendre is going to be. It gives him an opportunity. We saw Kamara, you don't have to go farther than New Orleans. We saw Kamara take advantage. I remember they brought in Adrian Peterson. They had, what's his name? Mark Ingram.
Yep.
Right? And then they brought in Kamara, and everyone's like, there's no way Kamara's going to be relevant year one. And he smashed because talent comes through. These teams want to win now. They're going to put the best players out there. Kendre Miller comes off of a 1,400-yard season. Like, one thing for me, Balky, in fantasy, is if you showed me you did it, I'm going to believe you.
Mm-hmm.
This whole upside thing where you've never done it, I'm over all of that. Like, tight end position I talk about often, that's why I don't invest in rookie tight ends. I'll pay the price for a Kelsey. I'll pay for a Kittle when I know they're going to smash for me, right? Running back, you're looking for talent. You're looking for proven. This guy's proved it. And progression. You look at his career in college, he's progressed every year in the receiving game, in the rushing game. There's something about when you watch him play, and sometimes it's not, I don't have a great stat for you or anything, but there's certain guys when I see him play, something kind of, and he's one of the guys when I started watching his tape and just seeing what he can do. I think he can be an all-around workhorse. He had 224 touches in his last season in college. So, look, we talk about New Orleans. We don't know what this offense is going to look like. They have a new quarterback. They have everything, a whole new situation there. He could come in with Kamara out and just take over that backfield right away.
Can you do something for me? Can you hit a little rich flex for me? Then 21, can you do something for me? Drop some bars.
Let's go. We are back, baby, and we have the legendary Howard Bender with us. Let's get him in here. This guy, man, it's crazy where they tell you don't meet your heroes. This guy has always been the tight end whisperer to me, and now I get to work with him, and it's so funny, man. Now, every time we meet up, every time we hang out, still the coolest dude there's ever been. Howard Bender, buddy, what's up, my dude?
What is up, proud papa? Congratulations. Good to see you back on the mic and not changing diapers right now. What's going on?
Yeah, 4 days of paternity leave, and I am back. That's the beauty of this gig is that, do a show, do a quick bottle, do a article, change a diaper. We got the schedule going, Howard. We're back. We're ready to rock and roll.
At some point, you're gonna baby Bjorn this little girl of yours, and you're gonna end up either having her right here, or she's gonna be in that hoop behind you, just kind of like doing like a little jumper kind of thing.
In there with lightning, dude. Yeah, I mean, hey, you know what? I think how many days do you have to wait before your first ever podcast appearance? It's been 5. What, 7? I think she's ready.
Yeah, probably. I'd say 5 to 7 is a good number. Absolutely.
How old were you?
Get used to it.
How many days before you did your first show? You seem like a 3-day baby. First show, all live on air.
Oh, I was. They videoed me like coming down through the birth canal and just like boom through the roast beef sandwich and hey.
Yeah, you're like immediately draft Pete Retzlaff, right, or whoever the hot tight end was back then.
I wasn't into tight ends back then. I was like Don Maynard, get that guy up here. Wide receiver heavy.
Yeah. All right, wait. Well, enough messing around. Let's get into the mid-round tight ends. I took the easy ones, of course, for myself, the elite guys, and I also took the sleepers. It's my show, Howard. So, you guys give me enough, trash on your show when I come on. So I'm taking all the cool ones. I'm giving you the hard part in the middle. First, just in general, like, do you find yourself this year, early drafts? We've done a couple mocks. Do you find yourself going early tight end? Do you find yourself waiting and taking 1? Do you like the idea of taking 2? How are you feeling just in general about the landscape right now?
Well, I mean, obviously for me, it's Travis Kelce or bust. So, if I can grab Kelce early, then I will. Early on in some best balls, as I was playing around with some stacks, I would do like a TJ Hawkinson or a Mark Andrews. I would do them provided that, I was grabbing myself Lamar Jackson or grabbing myself the little stack, the Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, or Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson stack. But I would say for the most part is that if I don't get Travis Kelce at the top, I am more than happy to wait until further down the list. And I'm talking about, probably even outside the top 100 according to ADP right now. And I feel good about that. Maybe that's your dynamic tier rankings that are, have like crept into the gray matter here, but I do find that it becomes a little bit more, less daunting of a task, and I'm definitely happier with my running back and wide receiver rooms by just waiting on the tight end position.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way, man. It's like, because if you look at tight end 7 to 15 last year, the difference was what, 13 points. The year before last, from 8 to 11, it was under a point, the difference between those guys. So they're kind of lying all over the ground. So before we get to that group outside the top 100, I want to look at the last guys here. So I went through the top 7 through Goddard. Earn Dog, if you can pull that up, there's 4 guys that do go before that pick 100 range you're talking about. You basically have Evan Engram going tight end 8. You have Pat Freiermuth, tight end 9, David Njoku, tight end 10, Dalton Schultz, tight end 11. I consider this kind of a tier break. It's leading into that, like you said, you don't like taking anybody really within the top 100. If you had to take somebody from this crew, who are you feeling best about?
I mean, this crew right here, Dalton Schultz has been the guy who I've, sort of waited on. We like the situation that he's in Houston. They don't have a clear-cut number 1 wide receiver. And we know that D'Amico Ryans and Bobby Slowick are going to emulate that San Francisco offense. So, imagine George Kittle if Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk weren't there. Now, I'm not saying that Dalton Schultz is George Kittle, but he's a strong pass catcher. He's a clean route runner. And with no clear-cut number 1 wide receiver, where are you going to go? I like Evan Engram, but you brought in Calvin Ridley. What's going to happen there? Zay Jones still getting a lot of play alongside him and Christian Kirk. So, our Engram's target's going to be the same. Pat Freiermuth, big wide-bodied tight end, sure, but does he get you the targets and the red zone work that you really covet? And while I love David Njoku, they just brought in Elijah Moore. We don't know what Donovan Peoples-Jones's role is going to be, and you've got Amari Cooper there. So for me, the biggest opportunity comes here with Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, so that group, like, this is kind of the to me, if you want to go really conservative yin yang tight end, which is a pairing system that I do for those unfamiliar, then you take like Engram or Freiermuth, who are kind of boring, and pair them with Njoku or Schultz, who could be top 2 targets on the team. But this whole range in recent years, it feels like it's the same thing. And Howard, you were the one, we could take that graphic now down, Iron Dog. You were the one that kind of put it in my mind, and I can't stop thinking about it, where you basically said that every year the back end tight end 1s in ADP are essentially just people reaching for last year's results, right? So when you look at that crew, is there anybody where you look at it and you're just like, I can't take him at ADP, because that's all it is. It's people looking at last year and saying, I want last year, but it's not last year. It's 2023.
Out of this group, Evan Engram is the one where it's like you just don't know. And listen, I spoke to, if you caught yesterday's episode of Getting Buzzed, I had Mike Dempsey on the show, and Mike Dempsey is a Jaguars broadcaster, and he's very, very in tune, and has spent every morning for the past week or so, 2 weeks in camp with the Jaguars, watching everything that's going on. And he says, listen, Evan Engram is still getting the work, even though they brought in Brenton Strange and and Calvin Ridley is there. He says Evan Engram is still getting the work, but you have to wonder, at that ADP, who are the other wide receivers and running backs around that area who are going? Do you need your quarterback? Did you not get one of the top tier quarterbacks? And do you want to get somebody, you need a little bit lower? Looking at Evan Ingram's numbers from last year, they looked phenomenal. We were riding that bandwagon together and having a great time doing it. But paying for last year's numbers without understanding what the situation is today is a huge mistake. It's a huge mistake. And I mean, I talked about that with the tier before that you were talking with. Like everybody's, all in on TJ Hawkinson right now because Adam Thielen's no longer there. And TJ Hawkinson was one of the most targeted tight ends going down the last several weeks of the fantasy season. That is 100% true. Yes. Is it going to be the same this year? I don't know. But, am I paying third round draft capital? Am I taking him over, the possibility of grabbing like a T Higgins or somebody like that? No, I can't. I just can't do that.
Dude, and that is the thing that people have such a hard time with is the replacement cost, right? Because you have to think about it. The tight, if you, in my opinion, if you draft tight end 9 and he finishes tight end 7, you made a terrible pick. Like in your mind, people are thinking like, oh, like if it's the Fantasy Pros contest where as long as you get a little value on ADP, you've won. But the difference between tight end 9 and tight end 7 in most years is what, like 2 points? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And you can find those guys elsewhere. They're lying all over the ground, those players. Like you can pick them up and throw them in there. So the sacrifice you're giving up is when you look at like Freiermuth last year. I think he was tight end 9 and finished tight end 7. If you look at the guys going around him, we're talking about like Kenneth Walker and Tyler Lockett and guys that actually made Chris Olave, guys that actually made a real difference in your lineup versus, drafting the tight end 9 and having the tight end 7 and just having a mediocre tight end all year, which is kind of like a one-way bullet train to third place, right? So for me, I'm with you. We're going for difference-making upside in the beginning if we're going to pay. And if not, we'll piece together. We'll figure it out. You and me, we spent all damn year doing it. Every single week, I post an article where I say, these are the guys I'm picking up to start this week. These are the guys I'm putting on my bench, and I'm hoping they break out. And we do yin yang all year round. So, like, if you want to do this strategy with us, we're going to do it the entire year, every week, who to start this week and who to stash. And we figure it out. That's how we got Waller, Ingram, all these guys. Like, Logan Thomas was a guy who was tight end 26 through 5 weeks. He finished tight end 4. So sometimes you got to stash him. So anyway, that crew there, I don't really love it. But there's another crew coming up after them where now we're outside the ADP. Now, as you said, you can go out and for 10 rounds, 9-10 rounds, take all your starting running backs, your starting wide receivers, a quarterback if you want. I mean, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a quarterback. That's 6 rounds. So then you can take another bench running back, 2 more bench wide receivers, and then take one of these guys as your tight end or 2 of these guys. So Earn Dog, if you pull up the next group, this ADP here, this is based on FFPC. Again, we use them because it's the experts of experts. Look how crazy tight this ADP is, Howard. This is a true pick 'em. Like there's no right, tight end run for sure. 14, 16, 17, 114, 116, 117, 118. ADP means nothing when this is how it's set up. You take the guy that you like. You don't take Higbee because he goes before Kincaid. It's one pick, right? So with this crew, it's a mix of the things we like. I almost wish I could just like take one of these guys and swap him into one of the other guys' places. But which guy do you like of this crew? If you're going to take one, this is in your range outside the top 100.
I mean, this is kind of where you start piecing things together a little bit more. Like, we were both in on Chigakonkwo until DeAndre Hopkins joined the team, because that bumps Okonkwo down to the number 3 target on a run first offense. So yes, maybe Tim Kelly kind of opens up the offense a little bit more. He spent all those years doing spread offense work with Bill O'Brien, but you've got Burks and you've got Hopkins that you're going to have to feed first, and those are the guys who are going to get the look. I think this tree, the other three I think are perfectly valid, non-sexy names that you can go after. Now, the sexy name I guess would be Dalton Kincaid, and we've had this conversation regarding the fact that they didn't boost up their wide receiver core at all. I mean, you're still sitting with stupid Gabe Davis out there. Khalil Shakir is their slot guy. So, you've got Stephon Diggs. You're going to have to find, like, Dalton Kincaid has the ability. I don't know if he's going to do it. He has the upside to be the number 2 target on that offense. Dawson Knox, block away, baby. Tether that sucker to the line. So, I'm fine with, with grabbing Dalton Kincaid as like an upside play and pair him with one of those safe guys, those safe, boring guys that you talked about before, like Ingram or Freiermuth, and we can do that. Higbee's an interesting one. I don't love Tyler Higbee by any stretch of the imagination. But you're telling me that Ben Skoranek or Van Jefferson, like one of those two guys, is going to be Matthew Stafford's second favorite target behind Cooper Kupp? So
it's not happening. Ben Skoranek is not happening, people. I'll tell you right now. How many times have we seen it?
There goes that 30th round pick. Oh, nuts.
He had a chance to be Cooper Kupp last year, and he was not Cooper Kupp. I'll tell you that.
I think the interesting one out of this group here, and maybe a shout out to Britt Flynn, because I know she loves this guy, but that's Greg Dulcich. Yeah. The injury to Tim Patrick speaks volumes. And if you understand the offensive scheme, you understand exactly what it's saying. Yes, Marvin Mims. Wow, fantastic. He'll be the 3rd receiver on the field now in 3 wide receiver sets. But Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi, they have no problem going into some 12 personnel and some 2 tight end sets, have a blocking tight end to help out. I mean, you've got Troutman, you've got Aquabanum, you've got Dulcich. So who's the pass catcher in that scheme? Look at what Joe Lombardi did for Jimmy Graham in New Orleans, right? Look at what he did to Gerald Everett the last 2 seasons in Los Angeles. He likes that tight end. He likes having that tight end run that drag route that he's just mirroring what the quarterback is doing, so that when Russell Wilson is rolling out, he's constantly got Dulcich in his field of vision. So, if you're taking Tim Patrick off the table, Mims has lots to learn still. And I don't know, how great of a route runner he's going to be in comparison to learning this new playbook. We know what Dulcich is capable of doing. And therefore, I feel like he's got, probably the most upside out of this group. Well, no, second most upside out of this group. Dalton Kincaid's got the most.
But less risk than
less
Kincaid.
risk. But yeah, I don't think that there's a lot of risk with Dulcich here, even with all these other tight ends in the room.
And think about that pairing at tight end 14 and 15, you could just wait until every single person in your league virtually drafts a tight end and then just go bing, boom, start Greg Dulcich week 1. At least he might be the 3rd target on the team, but at least he's likely going to be, right? And I love that Sean Payton used the word joker. People immediately were like, oh, that means he's going to get carries because Sean Payton has said joker about Alvin Kamara. But joker to Payton just means it's a guy you can play out of position. And that goes exactly to get, matchups. That goes exactly to what you're saying, in that Jimmy Graham was used exactly that way. And that's how they could use Greg Dulcich. And now that Tim Patrick's gone, they need that big body to be line up out there and block and play that role. Whatever role Tim Patrick was going to have, it now is pretty much going to this guy, because, they don't really have another guy to come in and be a big body player. Marquise Callaway is not going to do that. So I love that, man. That pairing, that might be the pairing right there. If you want to pay up for maybe an Ingram or Freiermuth and then take one of these guys, maybe. But, dude, Kincaid, Dulcich, easy one. And the narrative on Kincaid for me is simple. The Bills are win now. They have to they had to address weapons, and they traded up for this guy. And Brandon Beane already said he's going to play slot. So there you go. I'm with you, Howard.
I've been doing a lot of, and I just finished a draft actually where I got Schultz and Dulcich as my 2 tight ends. And easy. I feel incredible about it.
It's easy, dude. It's crazy. And Higbee, that's the one where I was like, if I could take Okonkwo and swap him with Higbee, where Okonkwo could be a top 2 target instead Oh, that would have been beautiful.
Oh
But
yeah, that would be amazing.
game would be easy. Game would be easy if we could do that. So, right. All right, Howard. Well, thank you very much, man, for coming in and joining me. Special week for me. My daughter being born, tight end show, yin and yang tight end will be out right after the show. It's already with the editors. We're gonna hit that publish button right after this show. Howard, tell everybody what we got going on at Fantasy Alarm so that they can get in and get the draft guide, because these, like we said, these articles, we give you the free articles so you can see the effort level that we put into this, but it is literally just a very tippity tip of the iceberg of what's behind the paywall in the draft guide and with the all pro membership that we offer.
Yeah, I mean, really just scratches the surface. What you're going to see right now over the next couple of weeks here, aside from training camp updates and breaking news stories as they come out, the player debate series is absolutely fantastic. We're taking some of the most polarizing players in fantasy football right now and pitting two analysts against each other. One's the pro, one's the con. And that helps out. We're also adding more fully in-depth player profiles. We've got hundreds of player profiles out on the on the site and in the draft guide. But some of the more detailed ones, like you'll see one from Kev Tompkins about Alexander Madison, that's hitting the world right now. I think that these are great and these are fantastic, and they're going to help you with as the news is coming through. But the meat and potatoes, like that's the appetizer. The meat and potatoes of what you're looking for is inside that draft guide. The tight end, the tight end series, the rankings that you're going to get, the dynamic tier rankings you're going to get, all the strategy articles, sleepers, busts, everything like that. I mean, that's all in there, and it's all being updated on the regular. That's the important thing to remember. Even the cheat sheet. Right? Like the cheat sheet is out there, and that's going to help blueprint your draft completely. You're going to see risers and fallers throughout on that cheat sheet as news and camp break. So you definitely don't want to miss out on that. I mean, really, it's the easiest path towards a fantasy championship.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's the way it goes. We update it every day. So the morning of your draft, wait as long as you can, and then download the cheat sheet that day and print it out, and then you'll know that it's up to date. It's all ready to go. So, Howard, thank you so much for joining us, dude. You're the man. We're going to hear from our guys at FFPC real quick, and then I'll be back to hit on the sleeper tight ends, the yin and yang tight end strategy that has helped us find guys like Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, Logan Thomas, you name it. So stay tuned. We're going to hear from those guys, and we'll be right back.
Breece Hall right now, and I've talked to plenty of high-stakes players, I'm sure you have too, Kev. Had Hall not torn his ACL last year, he might have been the 101 in drafts this year. That's how good he was looking last year, and obviously with the addition of Aaron Rodgers. At the 305, running back 11 behind Derrick Henry and Ramondre Stevenson, right ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs and Najee Harris. Your thoughts on him as a mid-third round pick? How have you been attacking him? Have you been getting him at that spot so far this year?
Yeah, if I start out with two wide receivers, Breece Hall is right at the top of the queue coming into the third. If I knew he'd be healthy for week one, I was still a little.
Well, he'd be going higher than the mid third.
Right. He may go 101 or well, RB1 at least.
Yeah.
But I don't think we know that even if he's healthy in spring and the summer, I still like if I'm running a team, if I'm the coach, I'm bringing him back slow. Like he's on a pitch count. Like I want him for the end of the season because I got Aaron Rodgers for the playoffs, right? Like even if he's fully healthy, I would work him in slow. But that is actually what you want. Like he's still going to get the high value touches. So yeah, if we know he's healthy, he's a first rounder. So like if he's sitting there in the third, especially when I get two wide receivers to start, I'll take Hall all day.
Yeah, it almost makes me think that the uncertainty with Breece Hall has made him unfairly fall too far, right? Like because we're talking about the team here in June. They're still hoping that he's ready for week one. This is not, oh, we'll see what happens. Oh, we're taking it day by day. Oh, we're liking how he's coming along. No, they still think by week one. And the fact that we have that timeline, I think, maybe bumps him up, especially as the drafting season gets deeper and deeper here in July and August. Maybe we start seeing him go up the boards as well.
bacteria compared to your career. This isn't fair. I'm a venereal disease, like a menstrual bleed through the pencil and leak on the sheet of the tablet in my
What's
mind.
up, gang? Rocking the Ben Coates jersey today because it's a special tight end edition. We're covering the entire tight end landscape. For those just joining us, you got to go back after this and watch the first segment. We cover the whole elite tight ends and exactly what you need to look for breakout tight ends. That first segment is everything you need to know about this position, how to find elite guys, how to find breakouts. Then we brought in Howard Bender to sort out the most difficult part of the draft, the mid-range. And now I'm going to get into the sleepers. This is where the money is made. And every year, a tight end for the last 6 years has come from outside the top 17 in ADP to finish top 5. So for those that think it's hopeless or you just draft Travis Kelce and then it doesn't matter, that's not true. There are breakouts out there and we're going to find them, right? You had 2017, Evan Engram, ADP, tight end 23, finished top 5. Eric Ebron, tight end 18, finished 4th. Darren Waller, tight end 18, finished 3rd. Logan Thomas, tight end 38 in ADP, finished 3rd. Dalton Schultz, tight end 35, finished 3rd. Evan Engram last year, tight end 20, finished 5. They're out there, folks. And the trick that we use to find them is a strategy I called yin and yang tight end. We've mentioned it a couple times on the show. The article's coming out today. We've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, and it works like this. There are guys like Logan Thomas that break out, but the problem is you can't trust them right away. Guys like Darren Waller, you weren't drafting him and starting him week 1. It was too risky. We never really even seen him out there. Same with Mark Andrews, right? So what you got to do is draft someone safe early on. That's your yin tight end. And then draft the highest possible risk, highest reward tight end on the bench. That's your yang tight end. And if he hits, switch him in. If he doesn't, we're rotating that guy on the bench, adding guys, dropping guys until we find the breakout, and then we use that. So last year, perfect example last year, really, of yin and yang tight end was Zach Ertz. He was maybe the greatest yin tight end of all time because not only is he a consistent target getter, but DeAndre Hopkins was suspended for 6 games. So we knew we had 6 games to use that bench spot to tinker around and find the breakout, right? So we were drafting Cole Kmet. He comes out, has zeros in the first 2 weeks. We trade him out for Evan Engram. Evan Engram ends up blowing up. I mean, honestly, from week 4 on, Engram was tight end 4 and Cole Kmet was tight end 6. So you could have got away with either of those guys, but Engram really was the guy. We wrote a full article on why we loved him. A lot of it due to the things that we mentioned in the first part of this show, that he's an elite athlete. He was going to a new offense with Doug Peterson calling the plays, and Trevor Lawrence is awesome. And it was all new weapons on the team, so there was uncertainty. So we leaned into that. It worked out. That's what we're going to do again this year. Early on in your drafts, you ask yourself why. Why am I drafting Travis Kelce? Because he's amazing. Why am I drafting Mark Andrews? Well, we've seen him have a monster season. We see a new offensive coordinator come in. There's enough there that we say yes. Later on, there's not enough why. So we have to ask why not? Why can't this guy be a top 2 target on the team? Why can't this team throw an absurd number of passes, right? Like Austin Hooper, we talked about 50 more passes than the next highest team. Dalton Schultz, same thing, right? So that's what we're looking at. Logan Thomas, the reason we liked him, and if you go back and check my timeline, after week 1, I had Logan Thomas as my number 1 waiver ad in 2020, even though he hadn't broken out yet. It's because he was playing literally 100% of the snaps. He was playing the vast majority of the snaps in the slot, all the things we look for. That's why we were adding him week 1, and we were ahead of everybody that added him week 5 or 6 or whenever they decided to come around and join the party. So that's the game here. That's what we're doing, right? And on sites like FFPC, where it's tight end premium, that's where if you hit on a late round tight end, you can absolutely crush these leagues, because the breakouts in that, if you're getting them like tight end 20, tight end 30 off the board and they finish top 5, that's not just a top 5 tight end. It's actually a high-end wide receiver, because the receptions are worth 1.5. So if you want to take advantage of this, go over to my FFPC, use promo code ALARM. If you deposit $35 or more, they'll give you $25, and you're off and running, right? So I look at the ADP over there. And here are some examples. I'll give you 3 examples of guys where we can say why not and potentially have a breakout for this year. 1, Sam Laporta, tight end 18, goes to pick 132. All the reasons we like Dalton Kincaid, we like Sam Laporta, right? Like this guy is basically a slot wide receiver. That's what he plays. That's why they drafted him. He had 23 broken tackles his last year in college. I've been calling him Sam Teleporter because this guy is shifty, man. He go and watch just the bowl game. I think he broke 6 tackles on 1 play in that game. This guy is electric. And Jameson Williams is suspended for the first 6 weeks. So this guy's a perfect scratch ticket compared to a lottery ticket where you draft him. If he hits within the first couple weeks, great, you got the guy. If he doesn't hit within the first couple weeks, it's not going to get any better when Jameson Williams comes back. So you drop him for the next hot pickup. He's picked 132. Who cares? Most of the guys in that range are going to be busts, and a lot of them you're going to drop the waivers anyway. So might as well take a shot on upside. The next one I like, Mike Gesicki, tight end 21, ADP 152. And it goes back to the top 2 target on the team. We all believe that Juju will be the top target. Maybe he is, maybe he won't be. Who's second? Devontae Parker? Kendrick Bourne? Tyquan Thornton? I mean, like, Tyquan Thornton would be fun because he's fast, but Mike Gesicki is the guy that's going to line up in the slot for this team. And defenders like Sauce Gardner, last year, Gardner only went in the slot 9 times last year. So he's not going to be in there covering Gesicki. This is a guy that is crazy athletic. He wants to play wide receiver. He wasn't happy with what the situation last year. He was caught talking to Dawson Knox on a hot mic about not being used. And he goes to a team, he could have picked any team he want, goes to a team that has a history of using tight ends in tremendous ways. The last time Bill O'Brien was calling plays for this team, 2011, they had the tight end 1 in Gronk and the tight end 3 in Aaron Hernandez. And that was all while Wes Welker got 170 targets. So Juju can get his targets. As long as Gesicki is second, he can be that big dog, man. And over the years, Belichick, on 8 or 9 different occasions, somebody asked him, what do you think about the tight end for the Dolphins? And he said, well, he's more of a big wide receiver. Well, now that big wide receiver is on this team, tight end 21. He's free, right? The last one, this is where we just lean completely into upside and uncertainty, is the Panthers, the Carolina Panthers. And Hayden Hurst, tight end 25, ADP 192. Back in 2020, the Panthers had a brand new coach and a brand new quarterback and a bunch of new weapons. And we thought DJ Moore would be the top target. So he was going off the board like wide receiver 9. And Curtis Samuel was going off at like 64, and Robbie Anderson, now he's Robbie Chosen Anderson or something. And he was going off at 65. Both those guys outperformed DJ Moore in fantasy. And once again, it's a new coach, brand new quarterback in Bryce Young, entirely new weapons. I've honestly never seen a team just go out and get entirely new starting weapons across the board. All 3 wide receivers, Thielen, DJ Chark, Jonathan Mingo, brand new to the team. Hayden Hurst, brand new to the team. Miles Sanders, brand new to the team. We have no idea how that's going to shake out. If we have that much uncertainty and a situation where the targets could be equally consolidated and dispersed, why not grab the guy you can start at tight end and get that positional scarcity, that positional boost? So Hayden Hurst, why not, right? Pick 192. That's crazy deep. That's around like 18, 19. You might not even have to draft him. Throw him on the watch list. So if you want to take advantage of these, like I said, FFPC, crazy high stakes. If you win your gold-plated name, goated, you put it in your Twitter profile, FFPC high stakes champion, right? Go over there, use promo code ALARM at myffpc.com, and they'll deposit $25 to your account if you deposit 35 or more yourself. So go over there, take advantage of that. It is cool. I play a ton of their leagues. Hopefully I can win one. I'll put it in my profile too. High stakes champion. Doesn't that sound good? So go check that out. But those are the guys I like in that range. But those aren't the only guys. Go through and use your imagination. Make a big list. That's what I do every year. I sit down and I say, okay, who could be a top target on their team? Irv Smith Jr. Well, let's see. They have Chase, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. That's not happening. Joe Mixon last year got more targets per game than Hayden Hurst. So he might be the 5th target on that team. I'm not interested, right? If Irv Smith can be fantasy relevant without those guys getting hurt, then it doesn't matter who drafted Irv Smith, because the guy that drafted Joe Burrow is going to win the league. Just like, with Orange Julius in 2013, Orange Julius didn't win you the league. The guy that had Peyton Manning when he threw 55 touchdown passes won that league. Same with someone like Gerald Everett behind Eckler and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Quentin Johnston and Gerald Everett only played more than 80% of the snaps in 2 games anyway. Forget those guys. Let's make a list of guys that could be a top target on their team, a top 2 target. Cole Kmet led the Bears in targets last year. DJ Moore's there. We just talked about how last time DJ Moore was in an uncertain situation, didn't work out that well. Who knows who the second target is? Could be Moondog, Darnell Mooney. He's coming off a high ankle sprain. Chase Claypool I actually like, but everyone else hates him. So if you don't like Chase Claypool, maybe you draft Cole Kmet. Maybe you draft Jelani Woods. We've got a new quarterback over there, whether it's Minshew or Anthony Richardson. Why can't Jelani Woods be the second target after Michael Pittman? Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, very solid players, but could be Jelani. I saw in the chat earlier, somebody throwing out, I think it was Better Boss, Matt Deutsch, throwing out Trey McBride. DeAndre Hopkins is gone. Last year when DeAndre Hopkins was hurt, Trey McBride had a game with 10 targets, right? So it could be Zach Ertz if he comes back. Obviously, Zach Ertz has played with the coach before with the Eagles. But if it's not Ertz, McBride could be the guy. And then it's Hollywood's probably the number one guy, and it's him versus Rondale Moore. No guarantee Rondale Moore gets more targets. So why not? Yes, Wayne, I see you in the chat. Jelani Woods, that's our boy, baby. Luke Musgrave, right, for the Packers. Brand new quarterback. We like Christian Watson. After that, they got a rookie, Jaden Reed. Romeo Doubs is a day 3 wide receiver. Why can't Luke Musgrave be one of his favorite targets right away? Or even Tucker Kraft. Maybe Tucker Kraft's better than Luke Musgrave. We saw that happen with Hayden Hurst going the first with the Ravens, and Mark Andrews was the 3rd round pick. He was even better. So that's what we're looking for. The last one, I guess, Logan Thomas or Cole Turner, if he wins that job. Whoever the starting tight end is for that team, we're talking about Ron Rivera, who used Logan Thomas in the slot extensively, and Eric Bieniemy coming over from the Chiefs. He's got some tight end tricks up his sleeve. This is the way you need to think. How does it happen? How do we get this guy to get 90 targets? That's all we need in this world to have upside. So hopefully this show helped you out, covering the entire tight end landscape. Please stay tuned after this, because my good friend Britt Flynn from Fantasy Alarm, Better Sports Network, absolute superstar. She's coming on with her show next. I'm going to be checking it out, hanging out in the chat. She's awesome, and she is on all the news and stuff. We get into like deep dive concepts and maybe not the most exciting stuff. To me, tight ends are exciting. But Britt is going to hit on all the news, all that cool stuff. So stay tuned for that. And do me a favor, guys. Go out, win an FFPC league, get the Fantasy Alarm draft guide, and tout it all over Twitter and our Discord that the family helped you win this year, because that's all I care about. The one thing I care about is that DM I get or that tweet I get where someone says, hey, I just wanted to tell you that you helped me win my league, so that I can say I didn't help you. You helped yourself by getting the draft guide and winning your league. So thanks, guys. I'll see you.